Brilliant, thank you. Okay, good morning everybody. We're delighted to be here. So my name is Emma Whewell and I am the Curriculum Leader for PE at the University of Northampton and part of the DLAB Erasmus project. So I'll hand you over to Helen to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Helen Caldwell. I'm also a senior lecturer and associate professor at the University of Northampton. My field is educational technology and has been for most of my working life. I'm also very interested in online learning and I lead the online Masters in Education at the university. And
Thank
we
you.
have Beth with us.
Yes.
Do you want to turn your microphone on, Beth?
Yes, I'll just
We'll put some background music on for the recording on this one. We'll do it after.
Have we lost Beth? No. Yeah, we lost Emma as well. You're on mute, Emma.
Yeah, I turned it off because Beth sat next to me, look.
All right, hi.
Yeah, so, but can you hear Beth on my microphone? I'm so sorry.
No, we can't. She'll have to come and put her head next to you.
Yeah, come scoot over. Here she comes.
Hello, Beth.
Hi.
Right, do you want to introduce yourself then?
Yeah, hi, I'm Beth. I'm a postgraduate student studying a Masters in Education, and my undergraduate degree was primary education, so all things education things, specialising in physical education. So outdoor learning, using technology out of the classroom is sort of an interest of mine.
I hope you don't get seasick with me swapping and changing. All right, so thank you everybody. So we thought we would share with you some of the work on a previous DLAB project, which was all about the use of mobile technology outdoors. And we did some research alongside this, looking at how the visual element of these sort of postings on our community would sort of inspire people and develop that community of learners. And we were really interested, particularly given the sort of how we find ourselves teaching and learning now, what role those visual ideas and posts could seed and where it could go. So there were over 50 people involved in this from Belgium, Denmark, Norway and England, and the output of this was a MOOC. So we had to go at making a massive online learning course and we had lots and lots of international interest, so that was really lovely. It also links really well with what the university is trying to do in terms of its future focus. So using active blended learning, active distance learning, and that kind of change maker movement, empowering people with social innovation skills, digital skills, so that they are well skilled graduates of the future. So we hope that this presentation will do two things really. One, tell you a little bit about our research and the importance of visuals in online learning, and also to give you some tech that you might want to use when you're doing any online learning or taking your learners outside into the real world. Lovely. So this is just a visual of the 3 years. So we had, as you can see there, technology outdoors, STEM to STEAM, which I'm sure you all know what STEM is, science, technology, engineering and maths. Well, STEAM embeds the arts in that as well. So using arts alongside STEM skills. And then finally, content and language integrated learning, so CLIL. So how it can develop those intercultural skills and understanding of language across countries. So we wanted very much in our technology outdoors part of this to explore how the physical world and the digital world could work together and look at how we can connect classrooms, which again, given our current teaching and learning climate, becomes more and more important. So we were connecting with classrooms across the 4 countries in Europe. When we made the MOOC, we spent 5 days in Norway planning and making the materials, filming all of the content, and trying to make it the best that we could and the most relevant that we could at that time. So we decided on 4 themes, and we're going to share some of the technology that we used from those themes shortly. The first one was wild writing. The second was art in the environment. The third one was creating trails, and the final one was outdoor science. These were some of the 4 teams, these were the 4 teams that worked together to produce a 7-week MOOC along the lines of these 4 ideas. And the next few slides will tell you a little bit about the research, but also the technology that was embedded within our MOOC. There we go, I found my notes now. Excellent. So the 2 case studies, well, we're going to share 3 case studies with you today. We're going to talk about virtual sculptures from art in the environment, and we are going to talk about walking a line from wild writing. And that involves sort of trail making and creating trails. Okay. So we were very keen that our MOOC had a lot of visual content, particularly because we were working with an international audience and there were some language barriers in terms of written and spoken English. We decided English would be our sort of language of choice for this, but we felt that the visuals in particular would sort of make that much more accessible. So it was a very multimodal kind of activity. And what we found was that the visual nature of our sort of provision really inspired the participants on the MOOC. And we'll show you in a little while the research, how quickly those ideas spread through the online community and how quickly they evolved. Do 3 things at once. So this is an example of our online community, and we would post an idea each week with a very simple activity that we had done. Our video would exemplify it, we'd model it, and then we would open it up for others to have a go and then see what else they could come up with. And really our ideas were very simple, but what happened in the MOOC and the online community was it just grew and grew and grew, and it evolved into something really rather wonderful, with people giving advice, talking, suggesting different ways of doing things, transferring their ideas to their country, to their classroom, to their learners, and it really started to evolve quite quickly. And we will show you some excellent examples of how that happened. And you can see there's a very friendly community with lots of transfer to practice ideas, lots of encouragement, lots of technological support as well, because we had such a range of learners on our MOOC. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Helen, who's going to talk to you about what we wanted to find out by doing all of this.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so really, as Emma says, we're going to try and do 2 things in our presentation today. We want to give you a sample of the tech that we use, so we want to give you some takeaway tech ideas, and we want to give you some online learning ideas as well. So we're drawing from our experience of running an online course, and we want to emphasize the importance of the online community, the asynchronous learning, if you like, that accompanied our course. So on the one hand, we had lots of materials to share to stimulate people to talk online, and on the other hand, we had this online community where people were posting and responding and posting and responding. And we really want to share that with you as something perhaps that anybody who's designing online learning can take away. So in designing our course, we were inspired by the work of Gilly Salmon, who suggests the notion of eativities. Eativities being a kind of framework for active social online learning, so that they're a way of enabling people to contribute, to rework, to interpret and apply ideas in practice, rather than just watch, listen, read. So it's based on the strong idea that knowledge is constructed by learners interacting with and through other people. So an eativity typically begins with a spark and ends with a call to action. And in our case, we tried, the spark was the experience from our project that we shared. So the 50 people in the project shared their experiences of working together. And then there was a call to action in that teachers were asked to go away, try some of the ideas and post in the online community. So it wasn't so much about telling as about doing. The learners were prompted to tell us what they did or tell us what they have already done. And for the research side of our project, we were really interested in this process of knowledge building. We had an idea that the visual postings in the community were a key part of this, and that maybe that was something that is not usually emphasised enough. So we wanted to look at the impact of visual posts on creative thinking and knowledge building in our online community of educators, and whether there was really an impact in terms of transfer to practice. Did people go away and do something? Did it change their beliefs? Did it change teachers' behaviour in participating in the course? So our key questions were, how did the visual community posts amplify the knowledge that was seeded in the MOOC content? So how did they take it beyond what we showed them in the first place? And how did the community members develop, adapt and reuse ideas in response to the visual posts? So Emma, if we, let me see which slide we're on. No, back one, Emma. Sorry, we're not coordinated enough. I'm still. Is that slide 6? Yes, slide 6. Okay. So we had 50 people in our project, but we had 450 people in the online course, and we worked out that 231 of the 450 were actually active and posting in the community. So this is an example here of how they took our ideas and extended them. This is an example of collective knowledge building, if you like, around tools and techniques. So we suggested some, we actually only suggested one tool around the idea of virtual sculptures, which we'll talk about in a minute. But in response to that, the wheel that you can see on the screen there, those are all the tools that the people in the community suggested that you could use for creating virtual sculptures. So we can see that the discussion went far beyond what we suggested in the first place. We kind of seeded the postings, and the people posting in the community took it a lot further. Okay, Emma, you can move on now. Thank you. So as part of our research, we analysed the posts. We took a sample of posts and we took a sample of comments around the posts, and we were looking for evidence of transfer to practice. Did it make a difference? Did people go and do something? And we accepted that the transfer to practice could be actual practice, or it could be intentional practice. So maybe that when they say, yes, great idea, I'll certainly try GIMP, that's an example of intention to transfer to practice. And some people shared previous practice, some people shared actual practice they did during the course. It was a month-long course, and they were going away and trying things out. Some people responded to what we shared, but a lot of people responded to what other people shared. So a lot of the posts were in response to another post, as in the last one there on that slide. I love what you did with your year 6s, Ian. I'll share your work with my year 4s, and it might encourage them to continue exploring surrealism. So in that sense, we're saying that the knowledge base is co-constructed, that people are constructing knowledge together because they're taking what we did and extending it. Okay, Emma. Right, so we'll come back to the research again at the end, but right now we want to spend a little bit of time sharing some of the tech ideas that we actually used as part of our project and as part of our course. So the project is the 5 countries working together, and we had these international days where we all worked together, and we used Twitter and we used Skype, and the different classrooms around the countries were working simultaneously on various aspects of technology outdoors. So this example here is called virtual sculptures. If we could go on to the next slide, Emma. So what the children, so we're working with year 7 pupils. Actually, we're not. We're working with year 4, 5, 6 and 7 pupils. So we're working with a range of age groups, classrooms paired together. And a key aspect of the project was that the classes would work together, swap digital artifacts, talk together, build intercultural understanding together. So in this example, the children created mini sculptures using very small bits of materials, beads, cardboard, bits of jewellery, all kinds of things to make their little sculptures. And then they green screened them with the app Green Screen by Do Ink and swapped them, put them in each other's contexts. So you can see there that there's a sculpture on the 4th plinth of Trafalgar Square. You can see there's a sculpture, it's actually on the confluence of seas on the northernmost tip of Denmark. So the English pupils put their sculpture in Denmark and the Danish pupils put their sculpture in England. And with their building understanding of each other's cultures and places, and also swapping videos where they talk about how they've made their sculptures, what the bits and pieces on their sculptures represent, and so on. They also used Google Maps to drop pins to their artwork. So the sculptures were not the only artwork, but they're on that Google Map there in the top right-hand corner. There are over 70 pieces of artwork pinned to the map. And that has actually now been viewed over 1,500 times. So it's through the MOOC and the people engaging with the course, they have been able to share their artwork. Next slide, please, Emma. Okay, so this slide is an example of the online community taking that idea. So we posted our very simple idea of green screening virtual sculptures, and the participants in the MOOC, the hundreds of people that from all around the world that joined in with our online course, then took that idea and developed it in all kinds of ways. Some of which were very similar to ours, and some of which were far, took it in lots of different forms. So we had things like 3D models in maths, we had drawings in different environments, we had clay sculptures, we had layering of images, creating surprises in images. That was quite a key theme, actually, that you could do unusual things with your images. Making digital sculptures in physical environments, and even making 3D printed models. So this idea of virtual sculptures really blossomed in the course. Okay. So this is an example of a post in the online course. And you see the picture of the skiers there. This teacher took the idea of virtual sculptures, and she actually went from digital to physical and back to digital again. So she had a real panes of glass in the environment, and she put transparent paper between plates of glass to create her image of skiers, and then shared the photograph. And then in the chat, it focuses on different layering techniques and takes the idea of being creative forwards, thinking about unexpected combinations of environments and objects. What about a skiing ballerina, says one person? What about the idea of surrealism, says another one? And what about the idea of adding a spark to a familiar background, says Barbara at the end, where she thinks about looking at the playground through the classroom window and adding an unusual aspect to it. So really this is an example of the participants here co-creating knowledge inspired by the visual post. So back to the research idea, the idea that a visual post can stimulate chat and talk and ideas and take the knowledge further. Okay, I'm going to hand back to Emma for the next little bit.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, some lovely artwork. So one of the other sub-themes we had was all about creating trails. So using technology to plan, do, share sort of different trails that the children had made. And we've chosen a couple of examples from Walking Alive. So this was based upon, change the slide, work by Richard Long, a poet, and we asked the children to walk in their own environment. So it could be in their school playground, it could be in a local park, and the idea is that they collect things as they go. So and their poem builds with the things that they are seeing. And what we were interested in was sharing the differences between the environments that the children find themselves. Now, we had some really lovely poetry, but what's also very interesting is the images that accompanied these really made them sort of very rich information. The children were able to see the differences between sort of their environment and the children in perhaps Denmark or Norway, very different. Norway is covered in snow for a large chunk of the year, Denmark is a coastal country. So we kind of saw lots of differences, and it allowed the children to build pictures using things like pic collage, role world, those sorts of things which demonstrated what they were seeing in their own environment. Okay, another activity that we did with them was called I Am the Pencil. And you may be quite familiar with some of these apps like Map My Walk, Strava, Map My Run, anything like that. It tracks you, or it tracks your phone or the device that you're using, and we sent them a challenge, not as sophisticated as the annual Strava competition, which you head out on your bike and you do hundreds of miles and make the most jazzy picture that you can. We were rather a lot more simple than that. We asked the children to figure out how they could make shape or a message or a picture using these tracking apps in their local area, and then share it with another country. So you can see some of the children have chosen to use like Google Earth there, so they're using like the satellite image, so the children in other countries could see what their environment looks like from the sky. Others chose just to make quite a complicated shape there, actually, a star. It's pretty tricky to do, just using the sort of the line function on some of these apps. So the eye and the pencil again, the visuals were really important because we were showing the shapes, and it got quite competitive in terms of who could make the most super shape. Okay, so again, this builds on the poetry activity, and we can see that the community have really hopped on this idea and given lots of encouragement. Thank you for your kind words. Give it a go. It's great fun. It's an incredible poem. It's so accessible to all children. Lots of wonderful ideas this week. Getting the children to do it for different ages. So we really saw such a lot of growth in this, and because we were working with an international community, the images that accompanied their poems were very wide-ranging, and we were able to see how this could evolve in different countries, in different cultures, and to share that in the community as well. So that was really lovely. We saw a lot of peer-to-peer learning, and we saw a lot of sort of writing information about writing creatively and how they could share that with the children, and how inspirational that could be. Okay, now I'm going to take a leap of faith here. Let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. So this is from one of our teachers in Norway, and she went another step further in the community. So having taken on the idea of Walking a Line and the Richard Long poem, she decided that she would make her journey to work every day and share that with the other countries. So she lives in Norway, so let's find out how she gets to school. Fingers crossed.
Can you turn the sound up, Emma? Yeah, an interesting thing about this video is that she was actually collecting the sounds of her journey to work, which was elaborating on our original idea.
Anyway, you kind of get the idea that the children were overawed by the fact that she was skiing to work and then wading through in thigh-high welly boots through the river. So it really grew. Like Helen said, not only was she collecting the visual images, she had made a sound poem or video of how her journey to work sounded. So there was a lot of information there, and it really shows just how far you can go from a pic collage poem to a sound capturing video of your journey to work in Norway. Okay. So I'm going to hand on to Beth in a moment, so I'll spin my screen round for you for our final case study, which is one of the AR apps that we would like to share with you called Scavenger.
Hi again. Okay.
Click your own now.
Thanks. So we have had a look at a couple of apps as part of the project. One of them was Scavenger, which is an AR app. There we go. So it's an app that uses augmented reality to present superimposed trails into the user's environment. So these images that you can see on this slide are just an example of one that I'd had to play around with. And what the app lets you do is create your own play space, which you can set for different sizes depending on the area that you've got outside. And you can create the trail with different checkpoints. You can have things like multiple choice questions. And there are some interactive elements as well. So one of the tasks is you have to go and find a flower or something. So it's getting children to interact firstly with the environment that they are in, but also giving them a task to do that is outside and interactive and moving about, and sort of leans more towards this idea of exergaming and technology outside the classroom rather than keeping them sat down all the time. And the great thing about Scavenger is that it can be used across the curriculum. So we've used it in physical education, which is possibly one of the most obvious ones, because if you think of outdoor and adventurous activities and getting out and about and exploring the environment, that's great. But the actual content in the trails themselves can be customized, so you can put your own question, like multiple choice questions in there, meaning that you can target it towards any topic or any subject. You could do a geography based thing, you could do even a maths based trail. So there's a lot of potential with it, and the app developers are currently developing a version of the app specifically for use in education, and they're taking on board a lot of advice and feedback from people who work in education as well. So that's been really great to see with this app. And then aside from Scavenger itself, there are lots of other apps and technology that can be used for outdoor learning, exploring outdoor environments, and collaborating and sharing content as well. So, and there's just a few examples on this slide for anyone who might be interested. We have things like Canva, which is sort of like a visual image manipulation tool, and there was, I think it was it Norway, Helen, who used Canva to create colour palettes, which could be exchanged with other countries. And as you saw from that video, Norway can be quite snowy, so their colour palette is very different to the colour palette we may have here in Northampton or in the UK in general. So they could swap their palettes with the groups in the other countries and create artwork based on the colour palette they were given. There's also technologies like digital sketchbook circles, where people will start with art and they will share that with other people who will then build upon the art that they've received, and you end up with a piece of artwork with several layers from several people, which has all been done collaboratively. So there's lots of different technologies like this that really support that idea of outdoor exploration and collaboration sharing. That's fabulous. So I will pass you back to Emma now.
Okay, so it's Helen actually who's going to tell you a little bit about our research findings.
Yeah, so so just looking back to what Beth was sharing there, one of our key messages is that technology can really support intercultural collaboration and intercultural understandings. So when the people in our project were making digital artifacts of one kind or another, whether it's a colour palette painting or a sketchbook circle piece of art, they were making something, swapping things, sharing things, learning about each other. So that was a really important process, and one that we're still pursuing in our project work. The other thing that we were looking at was our research question about online learning and the relationship between visual posts and ideas evolving in online communities. And we analysed using a research methodology. We took a sample of posts, we analysed them, we looked for themes, and we came up with the idea that the visual posts in our community were really important, that they were kind of anchors for this process of talking and making together. So people were exploring digital tools in the physical and in the digital spheres. They were sharing their practice and they were reflecting on their pedagogical beliefs within the online community. And what came out of this was a really rich theme of learning. I hope we've got that across. It was really, really exciting to see the ideas go beyond what we did originally. So that those people across the world, 23 different countries were participating in the online community, took our ideas in so many different directions. This is often referred to as rhizomatic learning. It's almost like a root system. A kind of interplay of talking and making and talking and making, crossing boundaries. That was very important. Digital learning across boundaries, crossing boundaries of subject areas, of age groups, of countries, of cultures. And we concluded also it's often the actual fact of crossing a boundary that provokes the fresh insight. So as a little example here is the English teacher looking at the Norwegian skiers. And she says, I love this idea. I'm wondering how it would work in a less stunning landscape. In my mind, I'm thinking of different windows into the play that goes on in the playground. Or as Liz mentioned, creating the peculiar, that would maybe add a spark to a more basic background. So she's reflecting, she's thinking in my context, what would it look like? What could I do? So we have a few recommendations for people designing online learning. Thanks, Emma. So we'd like to suggest that if you're doing online learning, perhaps you could think about recognizing the power of the visuals in quickly conveying ideas so that other people can build on them. It's almost like stepping stones. Put a picture down and other people can respond to it very quickly, especially if we're talking about education and teaching and things we do in the classroom or things we do with technology. So put a screenshot, put a visual down, and then people can take it further. Make the most of visual content to promote ideas sharing. Recognise that these learning pathways can be quite complex. That it's not so simple as telling people things. It's allowing people to co-create, to post and respond and post and respond and generate collective content that can be quite rich. And so we need to bear that in mind when we design our courses and nurture the kind of collective knowledge building process. Okay, back to Emma for a second.
Yeah, sorry, I realised that we've run slightly over, so we will summarise quite quickly, Richard, sorry. Okay, thank you ever so much for listening. So our contact details are on here, and I'm sure that the team will share our slides. I'll make sure you get a copy of that. So all our contact details are on there, and Helen, very quickly, would just like to talk to you about some of our online courses that we have that some of your staff and students might be interested in.
I just want to flag up three online courses, all of which use social online learning strategies, such as we've been talking about. There is a postgraduate certificate in digital leadership, which is quite relevant right now, I think. There's also a PGCE top-up for people who have not got the full PGCE. People who've got QTS, but not PGCE. And there's also a fully online education NA, a master's degree in education. And you're not too late to sign up if you do it very quickly for this autumn. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I'll stop sharing now, Richard.
That was fantastic. Sorry about that. I mean, you could have a whole event just for yourselves on that.
Oh, we could talk for days, Sunshine.
Brilliant. The engagement and the chat has been fantastic on that. So I think there's going to be plenty of follow-up people coming back to you. I mean, my takeaway was you could revolutionise the way teaching is done, you know, schools, colleges, wherever, you know, and I think there's lots of ideas in there as well. I think Simon summed it up where he just said, love this. Brilliant. Thanks very much for that.
No problem.
We're going to move over now to the panel discussion. Christine Lawrence is going to host that for us. Christine runs the Graduate Recruitment Agency. I think recruitment agencies that we've met locally, specifically ones around digital, have been fantastic and really good contacts to have. Lots of great insight on the skills that are needed within universities, within the business sector. So Christine is a really good contact to have. So I'm just going to stop recording. Should have stopped that beforehand.